All right, number one, how long were you Hyperion? I would say that I was superficially Hyperion for about 5 years. Superficially because it was always my intention of spreading Hyperianism as a means to presenting the paradigm of ontological mathematics, as espoused by Mike Hockney and his compatriots to a wider audience. In reality, I've been an Illuminist for over a decade.
Hello, my name is Karina, also known as VenusAbraxas, and I am not Hyperian. How long was I Hyperian? Well, I was a Hyperian for about 5 years, since 2017 is when I joined.
Hi, my name is Scott, also known as Scott VonFire, and I was Hyperian for 5 years.
Two, what drew you to Hyperianism? What drew me to Hyperianism was the fact that it was initially intended to be a vehicle for Illuminism/ontological mathematics. If Hyperianism did not proclaim logic and reason as its starting foundations, I probably would have never even got involved with the so-called movement.
What drew me to Hyperianism? I was first part of an Illuminist study group on Facebook since 2016. Then I was recruited to the secret group, which was called the Jacobin on Facebook. That's where I met other Illuminists that were like-minded individuals. And that's where I also met Corey Morgue in that secret group. He had posted if any one of us would like to contribute to his movement and what skills and talents do we have. I was happy to contribute some of my artistic expressions since I had been in the business of entertainment, and he accepted my contributions to Hyperianism.
Hyperianism was this relatively new online community of like-minded individuals that were discussing the very same topics that my band Code of Conduct had been discussing in our weekly rehearsals for several years prior. We were discussing the New World Order, meritocracy, ontological mathematics, among other things. It was all material from the inspiring works of Mike Hockney and the other writers of the PI. Hyperianism was an interesting newsstand outside of this library of Illuminist knowledge. It offered us somewhere to network, somewhere to grow, and to become more active. I was pulled in hook, line, and sinker.
Three, what made you get involved? What made me get involved was my aim of spreading the good news of ontological mathematics. Since Hyperianism was meant to be a vehicle for spreading ontological mathematics, I figured getting involved would be the best way of achieving my aim, spreading ontological mathematics far and wide to as large an audience as possible.
What made me get involved was watching his videos, topics about reincarnation, higher entities. It was a dumbed-down version of what the AC writers of the Pythagorean Illuminati wrote in their amazing Book of God series, but I was still intrigued. I was able to use my Sex for Salvation ideas in those short vids when promoting his book, Path of Shadow, with the love and sex theme of his book. Again, this was all original content of the Illuminist books from the Pythagorean Illuminati. It was just watered down in Morgue's version of his books. I also got involved in activism and promoted Hyperianism in every action I took to go out there, like flyers and for public banking at City Hall, also merging that with meritocracy and Hyperianism. Anti-Trump protests, also bringing in the meritocracy with that, and so on, even putting the Hyperion flyers inside and outside of any Catholic church I could find near me, placing flyers about Hyperionism in New York City libraries. So yeah, I got busy, okay? And hardly ever got any real appreciation from Morgue Corey on that, but an occasional like here and there on Instagram and Facebook. Like, what the fuck?
Being a single parent of two and working long hours for minimal pay, I really wanted to create a better world and a better future for my children. I saw Hyperianism as the perfect place to do this, so I contacted Morgue, who excitedly welcomed the idea of my band writing Hyperian music for the movement. Within a day or so, Susan Mitchell had sent me a bunch of information, including files that contained all the artwork, the logos, all the Hyperian gear that I needed for putting into, say, music videos, any content I was creating. I really thought that the more I could do, the more I guess I was shaping the world. What a fucking joke, right?
For what red flags did you notice, if any? Well, Morgue or Corey, however the fuck you pronounce it, was the biggest red flag to start with. This was the supposed face of the Hyperian movement, so-called. A former freak on a freak show who somehow managed to gain sanction from the AC/PI, created a front organization for the spread of ontological mathematics. Another red flag was the production of Morgue's work on ontological mathematics, his book, which was sophomoric in comparison to the God series and Truth series.
First red flag was a certain someone I was meeting up with for activism and meetups who seemed to be strangely obsessed with Corey, like a fan. This person should have only been concerned with the knowledge system we were promoting. That was the real reason why I was doing all of this. And I understood this person needed a push to do these things with me, and so I did give her a push and inspired her. But the interest seemed to be more focused on Morgue's hair. But she wasn't the only one that I had noticed. Many in this so-called movement were like that, and that was starting to turn me off because Corey never called it out. And I think his narcissism was attracting all other types of narcs into his cult. They were so delusional with the mythos. The whole point of the mythos was to direct them to the logos. And when one gets to finally understand logic and reason, they would become more consciously aware. But that didn't seem to be the case. The interest was more about his appearance and how majestic as fuck he appeared. Yeah, celeb worship cringe indeed. Another red flag was the super chats on his YouTube live feed. Many were competing with others and trying to upstage each other with higher donations for validation and a pat on the back. And also, your question would never be answered unless you gave him money on the super chats. So I also noticed on YouTube live with Corey that when I asked him about remembering past lives and or telepathy, he would say only highly evolved beings could do this, as if to say only his chosen ones, or maybe only he, could access those things and not anyone else. And if anyone else said that they could, they are probably fake or charlatans. Yeah, he went there. He said that.
Red flags. Damn, there are so many that after a while you couldn't even dodge them anymore. We basically had to suppress them, which is a bit of a red flag in itself, right? There was a lot of bullying, and I had quite a few people reach out to me due to the bullying and mistreatment. Some of it being, open, public, and some of it sort of, I guess, behind closed doors, private messages and everything like that. A high percentage of the complaints I heard were actually about one of the mods that are still active. So you're best to be mindful of who you trust. So, regarding red flags, so one of the biggest ones for me, and possibly I'm not the only one that had to deal with this, I was a Hyperion musician, not just in my band, but I also created a whole new identity, which I completely lent to Hyperionism. I became Scott VonFire. All of my music was now Hyperion. So I thought, anyway. Over the years to come, I would receive several messages that were almost like warnings, kind of hidden behind kind words. I was advised that my lyrical content needed to be toned down a touch. Like what the fuck? Like seriously? You want to censor me? Like fucking censorship. Like seriously. I actively protested the censorship of Morgue and Hyperianism on social media on many occasions. Yet, this guy needs to be censored. Like, fuck off. So the main songs of mine that received the calm your fucking shit censorship warnings were part of the awesome How New Terror compilation project that Wrath put together. Musicians came together to spread the word of the movement. It was fucking fire. Like, we had so much fun. It was awesome. Like, more than I can explain. Yet, I had to chill the fuck out with my overthrowing the old world order content. When the fuck did Hyperianism give up the fight for a new world order? Like, serious, can you tell me that? Because, fuck me. I guess I should have seen the promise of a meritocratic future being dissolved into this hyper shit dictatorship hidden behind a white lighter coffee club that was forming right in front of my eyes. You should do some hyper chats. Please submit your content for censoring here. Like, so many red flags. There's so many. Like, we could go on and on about so much. But, some fucking reason we suppressed it all. I'm glad it's coming out.
5. How did you discover the source material written by Mike Hockney? While still studying history at UCLA, I was doing some independent research on the Illuminati. To my surprise, I came across the AC website and ultimately bought all of the God-Series by Mike Hockney on Amazon for Kindle. I have since read practically everything I can get my hands on from Mike Hockney and his, fellow authors.
How did I discover the source material written by Mike Hockney? I discovered the material from the Luminous study groups in 2016 when I was recruited by Nox Pardonatus. From there, I read the God series, The God Game by Mike Hockney. It was a chock full of knowledge, unlike anything I had ever imagined, since this type of knowledge was never taught in schools. Far much more in depth than Corey ever could have. So, there you go. All these writers are the original content from which Corey had plagiarized. The source material is how I learned more about Pythagoras, Hegel, Leibniz, Nietzsche, Kant, and many others. And now I'm reading Without the Mob, There Is No Circus by David Sinclair, which exposes all the nasty plagiarizing scheme that Corey was up all along with other shocking details of their collaboration with Corey a few years ago.
Six, what made you leave Hyperianism? I ultimately became estranged from the whole movement right around the time that Thomas Foster's open letter to Hyperianism came out. I'd recently finished up law school and was preparing for the California bar exam, so I didn't really have much time to dedicate to Hyperianism anyway. However, it wasn't until I found out that Morgue no longer had sanction from the PI to discuss ontological mathematics that I ultimately repudiated Hyperianism.
What made me leave Hyperianism? I was basically turned off to everything. Slowly but surely, I woke the fuck up. I also never felt any real appreciation for all the time and energy I put into as a video artist for this movement and for Corey. I didn't get much recognition for it. And also buying the merchandise in his books was a waste too, because he never treated his VIP Hyperians well either, who put in much more of the work to get the material out to the masses. Some of them were sleeping in vans or in cars without a home. He never compensated them for the work. A true predatory capitalist, yes. And that's what he is. So he's going against every meritocratical principle that there is.
So when I found out that the mods were leaving, and the AC had dropped all support of Morgue and Hyperianism back in 2020, that pretty much said it all. Yet I was pointed towards David Sinclair's book, Without the Mob There Is No Circus, and I was advised to stay objective. This book revealed a lot. I did read it twice, just because I wanted it to sink in, and I highly recommend reading the book. And you've got to read it 2-3 times, doesn't matter, you need to read it, because basically it spells it all out. We've all basically been deceived by Morgue and Susan for pretty much 2 years.
Seven, how much money did you spend on Hyperians? I can't adequately say, as I haven't done a full audit of my finances over the last 5 years or so, but I would estimate somewhere between $600 and $800. This includes books, events, Patreon support for a time, and merchandise, of course.
How much money I spent on Hyperianism? I spent in 5 years almost close to about $1,000. It's not as much as Wrath, it's not as much as what others have spent, but it's still a waste of time and energy and money that I could have used for other things. So, when you count the Patreon $5 a month and the YouTube, the merchandise, books, the trip to LA, yeah, I could have saved that money and put it away for something that I really needed. It's nowhere as near as much as others, but it still feels like a waste. So what has Corey done to wake up the world with our donations? He just has better props for his silly videos. Nothing else really, and a new haircut with disco lights. Yeah, changing colors every time a super chat over $50 donation comes in. Cha-ching! There goes your color change. Ooh, yeah, thank you so much.
I spent roughly $3,000 to $4,000 on Patreon support, books, merchandise, pins, t-shirts, all that stuff. Even advertising sort of pamphlets and stuff. I never paid for the YouTube membership, for the emojis, etc. That was it. That was another red flag for me. That was just like, enough's enough. I did not get into that. I spent a lot upgrading my own personal equipment, software for content creating. Thankfully I can still use that. I would say the worst cost for me, several of my close friends, is the loss of my art, my music. 5 years of creativity thrown in the trash because it's Hyperian themed. That cost hurts the most, and that's the one that has made me pretty fucking angry, to be honest.
Eight, what would you say to any Hyperians watching? I would say that you will be on the losing side of history if you remain Hyperian. That's all.
What would I say to any other Hyperion watching? If you're a newbie, use proper discernment. Look out for the red flags early on which is what I didn't do at first, and I regret that. Cognitive dissonance will make you ignore those red flags and just leave it behind. Leave the cult. Like Adam Norris said, it's the familiarity factor of being narcissistically abused as a child. So pay attention to the signs of narcissism. As Rowan had said, do a lot of self-reflection, practice having stronger boundaries so that you can't be further manipulated, and get out before your wallet disappears and your sanity as well. To Hyperians that have been in this as long as I've been in this, stop giving your money away. Okay? Codependency will have you holding on to an illusion. Get out now and get therapy afterwards, and read the original source from the PI books. It's authentic intellect, not pseudo-intellect. Psychology 101 says the cult leader will say, look for me in your dreams. I will be there. Look for me in your dreams. I will be there. This is part of the conditioning. Corey has said this, and another current mainstream cult leader, Teal Swan, has also said this. Use real logic and reason and get out ASAP. That is all I can say. And I am not Hyperian.
To all the Hyperians sitting in the front row for Hyper Toilet Time with your host, MorgueOfficial, please stop giving this person your money. You don't need to pay for this shit. As the saying goes, you can't polish a turd. Alright, so get up off your ass and flush the fucker. Go out, get the God series, get the Truth series, and my personal favourite, the Anti-Elite series, one of the older series. I really like that one. A lot of my music I got in trouble for was based on that series. There is an abundance of knowledge available, so best thing I could say is don't let Hyperianism hinder your optimization. I do have one other important special note I want to make. This one's actually very, very important, okay? When you start losing friends and losing family because they don't want to be around your crazy, obsessed, fucking cult crap that you post everywhere, you talk about constantly. They don't, if they're not interested, they don't want to hear it. And I went through that and kind of feel a little bit bad about the way I acted sometimes. But I know my friends are still there. They've been contacting me. Just don't listen to anyone in the Hyperian community when they say that this is normal. Everyone goes through it. We all go through that, but everything's okay because we are now your new friends and your new family. Fuck off. Don't fall for that trap. Alright, it's not a nice one to fall for. Alright, be smart.